So, I'm going to skip the intro to this video and just get straight to brass taxes here. Now, there's a movie that's called Sound of Freedom that's making the rounds all over the internet, and for varying different reasons. The movie is recently just came out in movie theaters. It's in select movie theaters, I will say, because it is definitely not marketed or put in the theater where I live. I would go and watch the movie and actually do a review of it, because I'm seeing a lot of different contradicting things to the content about it. So the movie is actually based on a true story about child trafficking and basically any type of trafficking, because that's always more or less kind of the same thing there when you're trafficking humans, because it's not exactly something that should actually be idolized in any way. And there's a lot of consumers for the industry, and it's a huge industry that actually has a deeper presence than we actually know of. We know people go missing. We know children go missing. So we know that industry does exist, and there's always stories of missing people's cases, like one that's been in Canada for quite a few years that just got resolved. She wasn't a child, but she was abducted, and her name was Madison Scott. Now, a few weeks ago, she was found deceased, but she was finally found after so many years. So when it comes to things of trafficking and people going missing and all that kind of stuff, there's always something there that we're always missing. And this movie, from all the critiques that I've seen, highlights that. Because it's based on a true story, and the guy that's actually the one that lived through this is actually part of the film. He's part of the cast. That's what I've read in the bio for Tim Ballard. I hope I'm not saying his name wrong. But Jim Caviezel is actually the main character in the film, playing his character, playing him as a character. Anyways, I'm not explaining that. We know what I mean. But anyways, so they're going through this. They're trying to save the children. The scene, from what I seen in the trailer, setting is in Colombia. Now, the weird part is there's so many people that are for watching the film, but the film yet is steadily suppressed. Now, looking at other things, people have compared Indiana Jones and Sound of Freedom, which apparently Sound of Freedom was actually beating Indiana Jones in the box office. Now, I'm not going to say that's coming to much of a surprise to me, because Indiana Jones, after like the last few movies, has gone extremely downhill. First ones were instant classics. These ones just feel like they're throwing it out just to get money out of it. This movie, on the other hand, is based on a true story about things that do need to be combated, that a lot of people are looking at, and apparently it's a QAnon film. But if you look at the entire thing about when people started calling things QAnon, was around the time that COVID started. Now, this movie was actually written and filmed prior to COVID, but was shelved by Disney when they bought Fox. Now, the Fox-Disney acquisition, we all know about, because that was a big deal. That was, once again, all over the internet about the entire thing. But the thing that confuses me, they shelved the project. It got crowdfunded to hit theaters, but yet it's still being suppressed. Now, it doesn't really come to a surprise to me personally, because as anybody knows here, I am Christian, and I will say there is demonic forces in a lot of the things that we choose to watch. Now, you may be looking at me and be like, well, what do you mean? I'm just watching fluffy kittens and rainbows. Well, although you're watching fluffy kittens and rainbows. We all have to look at the bigger picture of things. Now, as a kid growing up with Disney, I know there was a lot of stuff in the background that technically us kids didn't notice, but adults did. From Disney castles looking like genitalia to literal pictures on walls in a child's room in the film of their parents being intimate. I'm trying to keep this as PG as I can. So it's stuff like that I'm referring to. We may think that something's nice and innocent in the moment, but then you're watching a children's movie, which you think is safe, and then all of a sudden there's a sexual innuendo in it, and you're like, why? You probably know the adults are watching this film with their kids, and this is going over the kid's head. But still, the bigger picture of it is that's kind of stuff that really we don't want our children to hear. Because it's not something we openly want to talk about with them until it's such time to sit down and have those conversations. But when it comes to trafficking and that sort of stuff, it doesn't make any sense as to why one side is fighting the other and saying, well, it's a QAnon film, if you're supporting it, you're supporting QAnon. And the other side is going, it's based on a true story. QAnon did not exist when this stuff was happening and the kids were being liberated. So you're taking away from the premise and the story that's being told. And once again, you can go back to my earlier thing about, well, the story being told, you brought up things that are in the backgrounds of Disney movies. And you brought up fluffy kittens and rainbows. I understand my own point there is contradictory. But what I'm trying to say is when it's a heavy topic that shouldn't be taken lightly, and people are now all of a sudden blame shifting and trying to deter people from watching it because they don't want to be considered QAnon, whatever that means, for watching a film. And it's just mind-boggling to me. Even movies like Big George Foreman. Now, if you haven't watched that movie, it is a movie that I actually really liked. I'm not going to do a review on it because I know my reviews are so few and far between. I've watched a lot of stuff between now and then. And a lot of it, I just don't see a point in doing a review in. But George Foreman, I like the movie a lot. Once again, is based on true events, and it also shows people that even though somebody's claiming to be brought up religious, that we don't always follow suit of things that we think is best. In hindsight, we look back at things and we're still like everybody else and going, I really wish I could have done something differently there. And when it comes to trafficking and that, and them trying to take some of the proceeds that are from the movie to organizations that are fighting it, but we're saying, well, you can't watch the movie because of XYZ, or it's anti-left, it's pro-right. You're taking away from the message because everybody's fighting each other and pointing fingers saying, well, it's your fault. Okay, if it's my fault and I'm trying to do something about it, what are you going to be doing about the situation? I know me personally, I don't believe in any of that stuff should ever be taking place. Is there any way that I can combat it? Absolutely. Because when I'm with my family, especially the younger generation, like my nieces, I'm going to protect them. And even if it costs me my life, I'm going to do that. You know why? Because that's actually something that's worth fighting for. Kids are the future generations, and if we're not willing to stand up for them, there really is no future for anyone. Because we're always spouting, well, kids are the future. Well, if kids are the future, why don't we actually believe in the words that we're saying? A lot of us know that any sort of trafficking that is in sexual nature, or I'll actually just say devious in nature, is wrong. We all know it's wrong. There's a lot of people that'll defend it, which I'm confused as to why. Because you got things like NAMBLA that run around and they believe that it's the best thing since sliced bread. But the thing is it damages so many families. It's taking away children from their families. And by us dismissing everything and looking at things like the Washington Post, the Guardian, the Rolling Stones, and what they're saying about the movie, trying to get people away from watching it because they're claiming it's QAnon, is doing a disservice to those children that are living through that nightmare each and every day. And this is a hill that I'm going to die on, more or less. Because I believe it is a just cause to fight. Just like any type of trafficking. I know for me personally, there's a lot of things that I've seen in life that I shake my head at. And there's things that I could go into great detail that I've seen with my own eyes that I could be like, well, I did do something about it. Even though I stood at the sidelines. Thing is, stuff like that, I'm not going to tell you what I've done. Because I have no need for that. I know that I've done good. I don't have to go and start throwing it at everybody's faces saying, well, here's what I did. Yeah, that's great that I did it. However, I'm missing the main point. And for this movie to be suppressed like it is, and people trying to deter people from watching it, and ignoring the message that it's about, I'm a little confused as to where we're standing as a society. Because right now, it's perfectly acceptable to boast about LGBTQ stuff and spread that towards children. But yet, it's completely unacceptable for a lot of people to say human trafficking in general is bad. I think we have a few things that we really need to work on as a society. Because if we're believing one is better for letting their voices be heard, and then telling these children that their voices need to be silenced by misdirecting and pointing fingers at everybody, there is something inherently wrong there. And in Canada, yes, there is certain things that the government does try and do for the families that are missing loved ones. However, it still takes a few brave souls to go hunting for the people that are missing. A lot go missing and are never found. A lot are missing that do get found. And as the days go on, and every time I'm on YouTube, there's always a post about either a child being killed by their mother that's a teenager, or some parent decided to kill their children, or even like other horrific things going on. It just confuses me that we care about more things that are just first world problems than things that are affecting millions across the globe. Because for human trafficking to be $1 billion industry tells us that there's something inherently wrong with our society. And I know people are probably going to loop me in with QAnon, even though that's not even true at all. I wasn't even for the truckers' protest when they did that here in Canada. Now, a lot of people look at that and they're saying, well, that was QAnon. A lot of people look at it and say, well, that wasn't QAnon. I look at it inherently, and after working in the customer service industry and all the stuff that I had to go through with customers that were not in the best of lights, I'll say, it just made me think if this is what people are like when they're stressed, I don't want to know what they're like when they're angry. Because we all know COVID hit the world like a storm, and this movie probably would have come out a lot sooner had COVID not happened. But I'm still firmly believing that there's a lot of things that aren't right in the world. And the fact that we're trying to silence voices of those that have been trafficked, that have made their way back, is just disgusting to me, to be honest. And as much as I love my country, I know my country has issues too. And there's a lot of things I won't ever agree with, and a lot of things that I'll say on this channel that people will look at me and say, this makes absolutely no sense what you're saying. And to that, I can say, a lot of the times it feels like I'm just rambling for no reason. But in the end, finding things to fight for that are just causes is worth the risk at times. And I just got clawed by a cat. Thank you, Midnight. So anyways, in conclusion, this film took place years ago, based on a true story about true events of children that were human trafficked. And as those kids come forward to actually share their stories about what was done for them when they were brought out of that darkness, we should be able to hear them and not discredit what they're saying because we think that they're part of some weird conspiracy theory circle, which is really strange that there's a select few groups that actually believe that that stuff doesn't happen and it doesn't exist. But overall, I just want to say we should all watch it and watch it with open eyes and open ears and understand that not everything is as it seems. I know even here in Prince George, there's human trafficking that goes on. People that go and put letters on the back of people's cars so that they can figure out who's in the car. And they prey on women and children. And as a man, I'm disgusted by us for doing that. And there are women that are doing it to little children that are boys too. So I'm not saying that it's just men that are doing it. There's women too. But overall, it should be all of our responsibilities to try and make sure that all kids are safe and that they all make it home. But, you know, I'm just a conspiracy theorist, and I'm just one guy. But I know this video probably won't do very well on YouTube because I know I'm getting suppressed by YouTube for many different reasons. But overall, I just wanted to say, if you guys have watched this video this far, please consider giving it a thumbs up and share it to people. Because I'm sure somebody out there hasn't heard of this movie before, and I'm sure that they'll want to check it out when it comes out, because I know when it comes out on DVD, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to watch it a few times. And overall, be safe and try and do your best. Yeah, sounds really cliche, doesn't it? I hope you're having a fantastic 2023, and if you're not, I hope it gets better for you sooner rather than later. Peace out, and I will see you all in the next video.